Hello there, YouTubers. Troz here, and I'm playing Minecraft today, and I built two machines that I'd like to show off. I'm standing on the first one here, and this is an automatic farm that I made. It's got a few neat features, but basically how it works, you put in here, you put some bone meal. I've actually already loaded it up, so all of these dispensers are all full. The bone meal automatically gets distributed by these hoppers, so that any hopper that runs out or starts using some automatically gets refilled. They're all full right now. You can see there's bone meal cycling around in these hoppers. But basically you just plant your plants, press the button, they're automatically grown, automatically harvested, and then mostly collected. There's a little hopper minecart that runs underneath. It picks up most stuff. Some stuff it doesn't pick up, but you can just keep planting. They'll grow. It picks up most stuff. It works obviously for wheat. You can do carrots. Again, mostly picked up. You can do potatoes. Again, it mostly picks it up. Not sure if that's a bug with hopper carts or what. But there's one neat feature with potatoes, and it not picking up all of them is sort of a feature so you can keep some of your potatoes. I'll show you in a minute why that is. This light here basically shows you if you do have bone meal. It actually checks this dispenser, and if this dispenser runs out of bone meal, the light goes out, so you know you need to fill. But basically, when you push this button here, it sends a signal here through this. Basically, it turns the long button signal into a one-tick pulse. That pulse then comes here to this line, which dispenses the first set of bone meal. It will delay another one-tick pulse to dispense another bone meal, one-tick delay, another pulse, and then through this longer wait, a fourth pulse. Generally only takes 3 to make a plant grow, but I do 4 just to be sure. Then it also sends a signal down here. This is a piston facing that way. That piston pushes all this dirt 1 block to the left here. This dirt block isn't tilled because if it's pushed under the half block it becomes solid again. But basically pushing all the dirt makes everything break. And then this piston pushes it all back in the next tick, basically. Yeah, so the signal comes into this block. This block powers the piston, powers the powered rail here, which starts this hopper cart going, and it powers this redstone. The redstone has a, well, the signal, because this has a 4-tick delay, becomes 4 ticks long. So we have 5 ticks here, and that then triggers this piston, and then there's a long delay coming all the way back here, which basically gets the cart moving twice. It goes once as soon as this piston goes, and then it goes again after the delay. I'll grow something here, show the whole process. See the dirt slid and slid back. You hear the cart going a second time. I'll show the cart now. Push the button, and then goes a second time. Just to make sure everything is picked up. So underneath the cart here, the cart is a hopper cart. It picks up items through the dirt most of the time. Again, apparently if the items are too far off to the side, they don't get picked up. But it drops the items to the hoppers here. Specifically this hopper. which then moves the items into this hopper. Except that there's this hopper below it. This hopper is filled with potatoes, so only potatoes will enter this hopper, and it acts as a sorter. I have basically, when more than 22 items, the redstone output here goes to 2 instead of just being 1, and then that powers this repeater, which would then turn off this torch. There's only one potato in here, so the turning off the torch lets that potato out and pulls a potato from up here, returning this to under 22, which turns the torch back on. So when the potato is let out, it goes into this hopper, which goes into this furnace, and cooks the potato. So out of the furnace comes cooked potatoes. They go into this chest here. Everything else comes over into this hopper and then just directly down to the chest. So as you can see, the chest has baked potatoes, it has wheat, it has seeds, it has carrots. So you can take the seeds and the carrots, replant them. That is why it is somewhat of a feature that not all the stuff gets picked up. Let's get rid of this wheat. So if I take this poisonous potato and put it in this hopper, it should just wind up directly in the chest here. Yep, because it does not get sorted out and does not get cooked because it can't get cooked. So yeah, you can just pick your potatoes back up. This does not waste any bone meal. Any plants that can't use it, it actually doesn't get used up. This should be cooking. Yep, there we got 3 potatoes there that were collected. Turns into baked potatoes. Might have actually had 4 by the time I got down here. And they get dumped in here. So, that's the auto farm here. This torch powers the powered rail there. And yeah, I'll show you the back here, but basically each of these pistons pop up to get a 1 tick pulse coming out, and this one stays up until the power turns off. So that's this little auto farm and auto potato cooker. Next item I want to show you is right here. It looks just like a normal wall. Got some buttons on it, but you can press this button and reveals a light and a crafting table, and then you can press this button, put it back. It's basically a block swapper, and little design I came up with that there's basically 2-button version where you can press, to get the one item, or press to put it back. You can see the grass happened to die because it was underneath, but most of the time, you'll get the block back. Just grass happens to be special. You also have this 1-button control that will flip it just by pressing 1 button. In this case, if for the wood buttons, if you press it again, it just does nothing. Basically, pulls it back, pushes it forward again. If you don't like the 2 buttons or the 1 buttons, you go with a lever-based design. And it's really not that hard to set this up. Basically, I'll show you what's behind the wall in a minute. But basically how you do this. So put out 6 blocks. 2 more like that. Let's switch some of these items around that we'll need here. So you put a sticky piston here and a normal piston there and there. You need some repeaters. These are on 1 tick. These are on 4 ticks. You put a block there with a torch behind it. And basically at this point, let's do a crafting table on one side and glowstone on the other, and then you just put your buttons here and there, and that's it. The glowstone's on this side. You want the glowstone, you push this button, you got the glowstone. The crafting table's on this side, push this button, you got the crafting table. And basically, let me kind of show you. This hopefully is a decent view. The way this was wired, the sticky piston pulls back, and then the piston on the same side fires, pushing its block in front of the sticky piston and the other block out of the way. And then the sticky piston pushes out again, showing it. And that's how the 2-button version works. Basically, the 1-button version, or the lever version, basically just works the same way, except there's an extra circuit that activates either the left side or the right side, depending on, every time it toggles, basically. So the circuitry for that is a little complex, but it's not that difficult. So I'll show you that now. So I actually have, the 3 different mechanisms. Actually, I have a 4th one back here. But, so here's your basic circuit that I designed over there. If you remember, I also have the one in the floor. That was the wrong one. There we go. And that just basically works. It's the same way. I just have the sticky piston facing up, these 2 pistons on the left and right, and we got the dirt block, or the crafting table. And basically, what I did there is I dug a little tunnel under here. So I got a signal out of this torch for the center, and then under this block and this block you also can grab a signal for the left and right pistons. So just like that. And it's one more. So as you can see, when I press this, that's how they're activated, and you can just hook up an additional set of 3 pistons, and you use repeaters and go as long as you want. So that's the basics. For the buttons or the levers, they are just activated through these repeaters here, and these repeaters have to be on 4 because you need at least a 4-tick signal in order to get this to swap properly. And basically the signal here back only creates a 1-tick signal, so that needs to be extended to 4 ticks using these repeaters. But basically these things here is an edge detector. One is a rising edge detector and one is a falling edge detector. And if you're not really into electronics, what that means is when this wire back here turns from off to on, one of these torches will blink for 1 tick, and then when it turns from on to off, the other torch will blink for 1 tick. So for the lever here, basically the lever is just hooked directly up. I just have a repeater because I need to extend the signal. So the one torch will blink. Let me make this more obvious. I'll put the lever, I'll just put the lever right here. So I'll flip the lever, and you can see the closer torch blinked, and then when I turn it off, the further torch blinked, and then the repeaters just extend it, the proper length, and that should, you can see it swaps the block and it swaps it back. So that's how the lever, that's pretty simple. Basically, the difference between these two is, you can see the I have this so that that one is 1 tick and this is 4 ticks. Again, 1 tick and 4 ticks. It's just the torches are swapped in positions, and that causes them to blink, the one to blink when the signal turns from off to on, and then the other to blink when the signal turns from on to off. So the lever, it's pretty obvious. So how do I get the button to work like the lever did? Well, just like the farm over there, I have these I have this piston with a block on top. It's a sticky piston, and I have this button here as a test button. But basically, what happens is this puts power into the block, and the piston sees that power and activates because it's powered. The power also comes through to this repeater, but as soon as the block moves out of the way, this repeater now is no longer powered, but because of the bud effect, or it's not really a glitch, it's an intended feature, the piston still thinks it's powered. It doesn't realize that the block that was powering it has moved out of the way. What that results in is a single tick signal getting through. This is also a sticky piston, but pistons powered by a single tick detach from their blocks, sticky pistons. So that causes the block to either get pushed and stay there while the piston pulls back, or if it's already there, for the piston to stick to it and then pull the block back. Now what happens over here is once the button pops out again, and this is no longer powering basically the piston shaft, then the piston retracts again. But because it was longer than a tick, it pulls the block back down, totally resetting. So basically, every time this button is pressed, the block at the end will either be pushed out and left there, or pulled in from being pushed out. Because there's a torch here, when the block is over the torch, it will power this line, and then when it's pulled back again, it stops powering the line, turning the button into a lever, basically. So here it goes. You see the 1 tick push the end block out, and now it's detached from the sticky piston. And then when I do this again, it is now retracted. And you can see this one stays up until the button stops powering it. And basically this is just, it works with stone buttons as well, it doesn't need to be a wood button. And I just have the line here, it happens to power this block, which then this repeater will pull the signal from. You could run the redstone right up to the repeater, it will work the same way. I just needed a test button here. So as you can see, that swapped the block. I'll press it again. Swapped it back. But this is a little noisy. It's got extra pistons to move. So there is this circuit. This is basically the same thing. This is Really, if you want to circuit-wise, what this is known as is a toggle flip-flop, because basically every time its input is signaled, the output is toggled. Right now, it's on, so you give it input, and the power comes off, and then you give it another input, power comes on, so every time you press it, it toggles. It's basically a memory cell, a simple one, that you can't really set its state, but you can change its state. There's no way to turn this off, but if it is on, you can turn it off, and if it's off, you can turn it on. You just can't force it to be on, or you can't force it to be off without knowing what its state already is. This is basically the same thing, except without using pistons, which makes it silent. The problem with this circuit, if you want to call it that, is it doesn't actually toggle until after the button resets. So here you can press it, and when the button pops out is when it actually changes. So there's a delay here. But other than the sound the button makes, this is completely silent. And basically the way it works is you have a torch here and two repeaters. Now these configuration of a torch, a repeater, going into another repeater that goes back into the torch is a basic clock. This should, if it was just these six, the block, the torch, the two repeaters, and the two pieces of redstone, this would blink constantly, on, off, on, off, on, off. However, we are using a repeater to power the side of this repeater, which blocks it from changing its state. So it won't blink, it holds its state. What happens is the rest of this circuit here, the button doesn't need to be here. You could use a line of redstone into this block. But basically, the torch here and these two repeaters into the side of this repeater, basically when it causes a momentary turning off of this repeater, which lets this blink, but only half a cycle. Basically, it goes from off to on or on to off before getting locked in that state again. So I can press this button, and there it goes. It basically locks this repeater's, when the button is pressed, it locks this repeater's state for 3 ticks, or it locks this repeater state because the power from the button is directly powering this, so it locks its state. At the same time, though, it turns off the power here, and 4 ticks later, the power is turned off here. So when the button turns off, it immediately, 1 tick later, releases the lock on this repeater. However, the power is still off and won't turn on for 4 ticks until this torch comes through here. And so that's enough time to let this toggle once. I was trying to figure out a way to let it toggle immediately. Like if I did that, I was hoping it would work the other way. But it blinks. Basically, this gets locked in the off state, and that blinks way too much and confuses the heck out of this part, and that doesn't do anything. So I found this is the simplest. You could probably make a bigger circuit that works, but for having a small circuit, this is silent operation, but it's delayed until the button. And I didn't really like that, so I went with this design, which, while noisy, it obviously works pretty quick. As the button is popping out, it's changed. So, that's a little block swapper mechanism and a little automatic farm that automatically cooks your potatoes and is safe for other items as well. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and you can use these automatic swappers for lighting or hiding certain things like your workbench, or I don't know, changing your wall color or something. You can have a hidden lighting system or hidden path that once activated, will show up blocks every so often that people can follow, show you the path to your secret base or whatever you want. It's just a neat little system that's completely sensible with the power coming out, and it's not that complex to build. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.